Hi, I'm Rich DeAngelis, and I'm making this video because I want to show you a project I've been working on, and I call it the Midi Surgeon. It's a device using MIDI SysX commands, and it will program synthesizers, mostly the old ones that had hard to work with interfaces. Right now I have done the Korg DW6000, the DW8000, and I'm halfway through the Poly 800 EX800. So let me start. I have a DW8000 set up here ready to go, and let me show you some of the things that it can do. So the first thing I want to do is I'll press Get and select the bank. I'm going to take the first one, and do it. It just read all the information in from the synthesizer, this sound. So what we can do is we can do a lot of different things with it. I'll press oscillator, and maybe I'll change the type of waveforms it uses. From a saw to a square, and I'll take the electric bass, turn it into a bell. So that was easy enough. Give me another example, the filter. I will vary the cutoff. And I can use a pot or the encoder to set a number. I'll find a tone I like. Okay, maybe I want to slow the attack a little bit. Let's say I want to alter the LFO frequency. First, let me turn it on. But that's enough of that. All that wobbling makes me seasick. Let me go, here's another nice thing. Play with the effects. I have these 5 buttons here that cover most categories of synthesizer engines. One's for oscillator, filter, amplifier, as in VCA, modulations, and effects. So it's as simple as, say I want to alter something in the filter. I'll press filter. There's 4 parameters there. I can press it again and get 4 more. Press it a third time and I get 4 more. So I have 12 different parameters right there with a few button presses, and I got all the encoders and sometimes the pots to change the value. So one thing I did extra here, particularly difficult with the Korg 8000, is there's 2 parameters to adjust the delay that it has built in. So I combined them into one control that I can just set the delay wherever I want. So let me turn the delay up. And I can just dial this up and change 2 parameters at one time. It has that sick modulation on it that I'll turn off. And let me try that. So I can just set it wherever I find it's useful. So that's what I can do. It makes it fairly easy to program a DW8000 without having to do all the button pushes. or the various numbers, and look up every number in the parameter list. And if I like that, every parameter is here, including that one that you can adjust the value slider so it remembers which one. I have it set so when it stores it, it'll call up the cutoff frequency. I like that, but let's say I don't want all that delay. Just turn the delay down. No numbers were used in the changing of that sound. Now here's the cool thing. It also has something like if I have a particular filter envelope I need, that's 4 time parameters and 2 the breakpoint and sustain and velocity sensitivity. Let's say I like that and I want to use that on the other one. Let me get a more normal sound here for a second. It has an envelope copy, so if I have a particular sound I like and I tweak the amplitude envelope with all the parameters I want, attack, decay, breakpoint, slope, sustain, release, and sensitivity, I have an envelope copy. So I can say copy the amp to the filter, or I can copy the filter to the amp. Let's say I like how the amp is set up, and I like to have the filter envelope be the same thing. Well, I just hit the do it button. The envelope has been copied. And now I have the kind of envelope that matches. So that's one of the major features I initially built for it, is to program the sounds. I have another really cool thing I added to make it a little quicker to come up with a whole new sound called Create. And call up that, and I can now have it randomly choose every single parameter and make an entirely new sound. Now that's not always going to be successful, but what I did is I added some programming in it that allows it to kind of weed out a lot of things it knows isn't going to work. Such as if you have both of the volume parameters for the oscillator set to 0 or 3, that's useless. So I have it at least do things like that. Every parameter has a statistical weighting to it that gives it some odds that are very good that it will occur, and other ones less so. Like for instance, the choice of the waveform is entirely random. The choice of the volume of the oscillator is heavily skewed towards high volume. As a minimum, one of the oscillators will be at a loud volume. The other one can be medium, low, or high, depending on the variety of sound it wants. And there's a trade-off there. To be really creatively free, you have to let it do every possible parameter to get some really wild sounds. But sometimes it's a little too free. So I had to rein it in a little bit and start telling it things like, well, okay, you can do add a whole bunch of heavy modulation to the sound, but I only want maybe 1 or 2 out of 64 patches to have that heavy modulation. So let's have it go to Create, hit Do It, and I now have an entirely new sound, and it sent it through the synthesizer. That's cool, but let's say it doesn't really do it for me. Just press the button again. I can just keep doing it until I find what I like. Maybe it depends on the mood of the song I'm doing. That might be interesting. Of course, I can go in and make changes to it as much as I want. Let's say I want to do that, but I don't want it to sustain. I will set the sustain to 0. That's actually a nice sound. Maybe I'll save that for a little bit later on. I have memory in this thing, what I call boxes. There's 12 boxes. Each box has 64 patches, so it's a whole set for the DW6000 or 8000, or the Poly 800. So I'm going to go take that sound that's in there now. It's not perfect, but I'll work with it a little bit. And I'm going to hit the Keep button. And I can select a box. Right now I'm going to put it in box 3 because I know there's some space in there. just dial up a patch number. As you see, I'll go through 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, they're all filled already, so I don't want to cover them out. But, oh, look, at 22, it says erased. So because it says erased, I will say keep that in there. I do that. Boom, that patch is now saved in there. Box 3, patch number 22. So I can call up, say, a sound I saved earlier that I liked. And I can call this sound up again. So it has an enormous capacity to remember a lot of sounds. And in fact, I made it easy to audition them by just, if you push this second encoder, it will advance to the next patch and send that information to the synth. So I can go through quickly and hear them all. Not. So that's an example of some patches I just made yesterday. Entirely new. They weren't based on anything except they were randomly chosen using the weighting that I programmed into it to select more useful patches. So I have a ton of patches on here. If I have this box, I made it small enough to fit on the keyboard itself. But if for some reason the keyboard is up on a rack or something and I can't really get at it, but I want to keep this nearby, I added another feature where I can addition the sounds without having to run to the keyboard. I just push one of these. And I'm like, okay, I can, it's sending the MIDI notes out. So I can hear what the sound is. This button plays them staccato. And this button will play them more legato from the bottom of the keyboard. Interesting there, that is from box 3, it's patch 24. Now that was a sound at one time, but I saved it, changed it, copied it somewhere or whatever, and I erased it. But even though I erased it, it shows it's erased, but the data is still there. So if I feel, hey, I want that back, I can just do a function to call it back. It's not gone until I write over it with a whole new patch. So it's still there. And it's a little annoying, so that's why I erased it. If I want to get at a glance and see what patches I have in that particular box, I can hit this button, and as you can see, the display shows where all the patches are. Bank 1, they're all full. Bank 2, I have 1 and 2 in there. Bank 3, I have 1 and 3 and 5. And all the other dots are patches that are either empty or erased. In this case, I did have stuff on there, but I erase them all. So I can very quickly see, all right, I want to make a few new patches. I'll put, there's space there, all the 4s, 4, 1 to 4, 8, I can put. And that's just box 3. You know, I can look, let's go to another box, box 5. Here I can see I have almost all the banks full. 7 and 8 are free, and there's 3 more patches free. Bank 2, 6, 7, and 8 are still free. And I can get that information from all the different boxes I have. I've sort of organized it so that I have, for example, in box 12, I have, you know, special sound effect things. Box 9, I believe, is a bunch of organs. And it's great because, you know, the old way of doing this, you can have a computer and do sysx on it, but even that takes a little bit of time. You could have the old tape method, playing a cassette in and out and watching it load and save. This will dump or get, like, for example, a whole group of 64 in a matter of seconds. So I'll go to get 64 patches and take the whole patch range from 11 to 88, and I'll call it into the memory in the programmer. And it's halfway done, and it's done. Now it'll write to the synthesizer at about the same speed. You do have to turn the write enable on or it won't actually save it. It'll come up with a warning saying, like if I want to keep all these patches, if I want to send them all to the synthesizer, I mean, that's what I want to do. It tells me there's a write error. Is the write switch set to the left? Well, it's not, so that's why it's not going to work. But I can write over if I want, but I want to do that now. So that's some of the neat features I have for editing the synth, and also some features for saving and loading banks of data. Now, I can also not get 64, but I can get a smaller patch group of 16 or 32. Like if here I want to get, say, the first 16. Hit that, 1, 2, 3, 5, it's done. I got the first 16. I can alter, save, do whatever I want with that. I can also set a group of 32 patches. And I can set whether I want the first 32 from 11 to 48 or the bottom 32 from 51 down to 88. Let's say I want to get from 51 to 88. I'll press the do it. And 50, 60, 70, 80. Boom, I have them in memory. That allows me to take smaller groups and I can mix and match groups for songs, and maybe I want to keep a bunch of organs from the 60s and 70s, and maybe I want to keep pianos in the 50s and 60s. I can organize my patches and do it that way. So even though I might have one particular sound in there, I can say go to get all my pianos and dump them onto the keyboard and try out all my pianos. Or maybe I just want to dump them onto 16 of them and try out 16 of my favorites and find the one that I really want. I also added another thing because I was a little confused in trying to organize. I have a match function. And with the match function, let's say I have a sound in memory. I don't even know what I have in memory. There's a sound there. I guess it's that one. So if I want to look for it, I can go and select this this match function, and I can scroll through and find out if there's any one patch that is just like that patch. So I have a duplicate somewhere, and there's a score. As you see, every patch has a score. It tells me the percentage of parameters that are exactly the same. So if I call up a particular sound, say for whatever reason, I don't know, I'm going to send it sound number 23, whatever that is. That's sound 23. If I go to match, I can scroll around and see that it doesn't match 43, it doesn't match 33, but when I get back to 23, that's 100%. That matches. It's a good way to see if you have duplicates that you're saving in random places, because you get confused, and I do, as to what's saved where. So there it is. I also added another feature. Now this won't store it in the memory of the synth because they just don't have the space for it. But I have a tag feature, so every sound I have, I can specify different tags for it. Such as if it's a sound that fades away, I could set it as a decay, or it could be an organ sound, it could be a slow sound, or a bass sound, or a sound with a lot of heavy modulators, or it can be a filter sweep type of sound, or it can be a sound with portamento on. And these features you can save it with that, and it'll save it in this memory. So I can go through and, without having to actually see what every sound is or try it out, I can just click through till I find one that, say, has the portamento tag on. So I know that, okay, I'm going to play a sound with portamento. Inbox 934 has touch response, so well, let's try that one out. Doesn't have a lot of touch response. It's just 2 for the amplitude, but it's touch response. Turn it up to 7. So that's the tags. Now the DW8000, I have a little extra space for that, so I added, because it has more features. The DW8000, it has a velocity response and a pressure response, because it has a pressure keyboard. and it also has auto bend. So those are 3 more tags that the DW8000 has. I can scroll through and find a sound that has any of those features, or a sound with heavy effects, and I added another one that it's just a category. I have 60 different categories that are saved with. Like, here's a category of the muted and dark pianos, or I have electric pianos and plucked sounds. Another one might be mellow pad sounds, filter sweep sounds, or organ and pipe sounds. That's another way to, as I scroll through, it will tell me what those particular sounds would be generally. It helps me find a particular sound. Like, there's a bright brass sound, there's a piano sound, there's a filter sweep sound, there's a bass that decays. A bass that decays is one that doesn't sustain. Whereas I can have basses that do sustain. That sustains. So that's my little MIDI Surgeon. Like I said, I have it for the Korg, the 6000 and 8000, and I'll be adding other ones. Kawai K3, Yamaha DX21, a lot of the older synths that have a difficult interface that would be much better served with a bigger screen and encoder knobs and knobs. So that's my toy. So I'm going to get on to playing one of my favorite sounds.